So what did you first see when you jumped out of the car and ran toward the officers? What did you see?
So
In your mind's eye, tell us what you saw.
before we came to a complete stop, I remember Officer Rankin kind of veering over to the right, and I could see around Officer Collins and Officer Burbank's vehicle. Like I saw their amber lights were on, but I saw them struggling with Mr. Ellis in front of their patrol vehicle.
Could you see him very well?
It was just like dark figures on the ground.
And the patrol car was where in the roadway?
It was at the intersection of 96 and Ainsworth.
And it was actually in the roadway or on the side?
It was in the roadway. I saw Officer Collins attempting to gain control of Mr. Ellis's legs, and I saw Officer Burbank trying to get control of Mr. Ellis's upper body. And they were kind of moving southbound in front of the patrol car, like across towards the road.
How were they moving southbound?
Mr. Ellis was like, I guess the best way to describe it is kind of like doing the worm across the road with them, trying to control him. It's kind of like they're on, here's Officer Collins, here's Officer Burbank up here. You're just kind of like moving them across the road.
Officer Burbank, so what did you do when you saw this?
I ran up to them and I looked for a way to help control Mr. Ellis. And so for me, that was trying to get his legs under control. And that's why I noticed he was in handcuffs.
Where was Timmy Rankine as you're holding on for dear life and he's with his cap like you described? If you remember, if you knew at that time.
He was assisting Officer Burbank with controlling Mr. Ellis's upper body.
Now, you talked about you saw that Mr. Ellis was in handcuffs. Did that surprise you?
Yes, it did.
Why did it?
I've never seen someone before that move officers trying to restrain them while in handcuffs like that.
And did you try to talk to Mr. Ellis?
Yes, I did.
Did you have any sense of how long Officer Rankine was trying to restrain him as you just described? Did you have any sense of how long that occurred?
No, it was pretty much until the hobble restraints were brought in.
Did you see anything that looked to you to be inappropriate or excessive at that point in terms of what Officer Rankine was doing in attempting to restrain Mr. Ellis?
No, if I did, I would have immediately intervened.
So if you said something like that, you would have intervened. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you saw nothing like that?
No.
So you didn't have to intervene?
No, I did not.
And you would have done that to your own partner?
Yes, that's our job, is to make sure we follow the rules.
Your what?
That's our job as partners, is to hold each other accountable. So if I had saw that, I would have immediately told him to stop.
Did you ever see Officer Rankine get on his back when he was in hobbles?
What do you mean? Like just...
On his back anywhere, like put weight on his back, stand on his back, anything like that while he was in hobbles?
Other than the way we're trained is like when someone's in the prone position, we'll put like a knee over their shoulder area.
Okay.
Other than that, no.
Where was the knee during the time we're talking about right now?
It would have been over like here, like over his shoulder blade area.
And whose knee was that?
It would have been Officer Rankin.
Did you see him apply any pressure?
Not that I could see, no.
Did you see anything inappropriate?
No, I did not.
Did you see anything excessive?
No, I did not.
Once Mr. Ellis was under control and he was in hobbles and he was handcuffed, you would agree that the officers had a caretaking responsibility to Mr. Ellis, correct?
Jack Foundation, okay.
When you say the officers, who are you referring to?
I'll ask you specifically about yourself. Did you have a caretaking function?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Officer Ford, you acknowledge that you had a caretaking function towards Mr. Ellis, correct?
That is correct.
And you would agree that Defendant Rankin, Officer Rankin, had a caretaking function towards Mr. Ellis, correct?
Yes.
And Defendant Burbank, Officer Burbank, also had a caretaking function towards Mr. Ellis, correct?
Again, I would object to it because it's taken out of context as when that caretaking function began.
Are you saying that even though he's hogtied and he's thrashing around, he's somehow not under control?
That is correct.
He couldn't walk, could he?
No.
He couldn't get up and move?
Not very easily, no.
And that's the reason why you have a caretaking function to somebody, correct?
What do you mean by caretaking function? Can you clarify that,
Overall,
please?
overall,
Well, you
the
said that
witness
you
is
had a
asking for this to
caretaking,
be clarified.
correct?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
The witness asked Ms. Eakes to explain what she means by a caretaking function when she asked him about that. So let him answer the question.
You said that you had a caretaking function, correct?
That is correct.
And what do you mean by a caretaking function?
Summoning the fire department, making sure that they don't hurt themselves or others.
Only the fire department has a caretaking function?
Summoning the fire department.
Summoning the fire
Yes.
department, okay? Well, don't you have an obligation to ensure that somebody is, for example, breathing before the fire department gets there?
Yes.
And that their injuries are being tended to, correct?
If we have the supplies on us, yes. But
And that's because that person who's restrained is not able to help themselves, correct?
that is correct.
Now, as officer, you had training in first aid, is that right, that night?
Yes.
And also in CPR?
Yes.
And you had been trained to recognize when people had breathing issues?
Yes.
And you had been trained to recognize if someone was unresponsive, correct?
That is correct.